I was all coked out one night. I was laying in my bed and I had this like vision and epiphany that I was at my own funeral and I could see it clearly. I was at my own funeral. I could see all my family, my friends, and my mother. And my mother stuck on particular, and she was bawling her eyes out saying he was too young. And at that moment, I really realized like I was at my own funeral. And that was just God showing me like, dude, if you don't change, this is where your life is going.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Executive Health and Life. I'm your host, Julian Hayes II, back at it again with, as I always say, another fascinating guest. And today, I was looking at my guest, looking at some of his stuff on here, and I found some quotes that I really liked that he shared. And one was, be tolerant with others and strict with yourself, which is said by none other than Marcus Aurelius. And the other one was, service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on earth. And I really like that, because it reminds us that we are here for something much bigger. It is much bigger than us. And that's some of the things that we're talking about today. But we're also talking about addictions. 1 in 3 people struggle with addictions to drugs or alcohol. We're also, most importantly, going to talk about how to turn your life around and become unrecognizable. So my guest today is someone who I was lucky to meet maybe a few months ago or so. And I heard his story and I was like, damn, that's an awesome story. And it's very inspiring. And at one point, he was 270 pounds, severely overweight, probably had double chins, a drug addict, a drug dealer, and in general was living a very purposeless life. And fast forward today, my guest, Oliver Goulet, is a nutrition and mindset coach. He's the owner of 2 cannabis companies. He's the host of the podcast Fresh Hope for a Better You. And he's just a very all-around inspiring human being. So, Oliver, how's it going today?
Oh, it's going wonderful. Thank you, Julian, for having me on. I'm excited to dive into a little bit about myself and see what kind of value we can provide to your audience today. Hopefully inspire them to become a better version of themselves. That's my purpose. So hopefully we can go along those lines today.
Absolutely, man. And, we got to start with the big elephant in the room. I imagine years ago, if we were talking over the internet right now, that there's pretty much an extra you that will be sitting there taking up this screen right now. So I'm curious, life as a 275-pound person, how did it happen and what was the change for that? So let's go back there.
So basically my whole life, I was kind of overweight, growing up through my early adolescence, stuff like that, being the youngest of 6. And the age gap was about 8 years between me and my the closest sibling to me. I tended to spend a lot of time alone. And because I felt so lonely, I tended to fill that gap and void in my life with food, which that became a addiction over time that I was unaware of. I didn't know anything about nutrition or anything like that. And over, my early adolescence going into my early adulthood, it just became more and more of a problem. And as I got into high school, it just became more and more. Even though I was an athlete, I was still extremely overweight. And then as I got into college, it kind of continued down that path. And the typical freshman 15 that most people put on actually turned into the freshman 50. And it became a substantial issue. And I was really going down a wrong path through that. And it just kind of just spiraled out of control that way. And luckily, I was able to catch myself before it was too late and ended up losing over 80 pounds. And, now I've dedicated my life to trying to help others with their fitness and nutrition. And just because I understand of how hard it is to actually know what's right and what's wrong, especially with all the misinformation and stuff out there about health and wellness overall. So it's just been quite a journey overall. It's been a battle, but being able to overcome the food addictions and stuff like that has ultimately led me to helping others do the same thing. And it wasn't just, the drugs and alcohol that I was addicted to. The food addiction is something that, majority of people struggle with due to the fact that over 70% of the United States is overweight or obese. So it's more of a problem with people having food addictions than it is necessarily the drugs and alcohol.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When we think about our fitness journeys, some of us, like myself, scrawny, lanky, and we're just trying to get bigger. And then there's other of us who are on the opposite end of the spectrum. And psychologically, I think it's hard for us to even relate to what's it like to carry that extra weight. And even things like with self-confidence, self-esteem in that. Did you deal with that kind of issues as well when you were that size?
Oh, yeah, man. It was It was a big determining factor whether I did certain things or not. It comes up with one story in mind. It was my senior year of high school. We went to a place, it was like an adventure park with roller coasters and stuff. And all my friends, they're like, let's go ride this ride. And it was like kind of like a Frogger one where you get in, you put a strap over yourself and you go up and down. And all my friends got in, I got in, and we couldn't get the strap over my stomach. I had like 2 or 3 guys coming over trying to push it down. And they're like, yeah, man, it's not going to work. So that situations like that, that was just one of the numerous times where it was just like, man, you're a fat ass. Like, there's no doubt about it. And it's just like, that kills your confidence, that kills your pride that you have within yourself. And that also leads into you not having any confidence when you're talking to ladies. Even though I was a smooth talker, just it was a slim chance of me talking to girls because I had to look past like the fact that I was very overweight. And there's just so many other things that come along with that, like avoiding mirrors, never taking your shirt off in public. You go to the beach and I'm the kid in a fucking shirt at the beach or the pool, same thing like that. And another story that comes to mind is when I was in 7th grade during PE class, we had a 2-week period where we were swimming at our pool, and we were all getting ready and stuff in the locker room, and a bunch of my buddies were giving me a bunch of shit because they always did. That's just what kids do. They bully each other. And I got out there, and then in front of everyone, a friend of mine goes, Oliver, you have bigger boobs than all the girls in our class. And that moment was just like, damn, that was such a crucial moment, because not only it was like, you know, with the guys, like I get it, the guys make fun of me, but now I was in front of all of the girls in our grade. And just situations like that is just like, it kills your confidence. And I had so many of those growing up in my life, just being bullied for being overweight, and which just led me to eating more food. Because what did I do when I was sad and depressed and lonely? I ate more food. So it just led to greater weight gain throughout that whole thing. So the whole thing is, yes, like coming from a skinnier perspective, you might get a little bit more bullied, but being overweight and stuff, that's just an easy target for kids to bully you. Like, you stand out. And that was just something easy for kids to pick on me for. But as I get older, I realized that that was just them, you know, being kids and ultimately projecting their own insecurities onto me because they're suffering and turtling too, because most people do.
Yeah, and the thing is, either whatever side you come from, you can use that almost as motivation and inspiration and a drive. I know I definitely did. I remember like when I first started lifting, I created enemies, even if they weren't really enemies, but I just picked out people, and it's like they're my enemies. I'm gonna get to that size. I'm gonna get bigger than this person. This person's getting the girls that I like and stuff. I'm going to make them. I'm going to be unrecognizable, and it's a way to just get myself to just do something, just to get myself to be a starter and start taking action on it. And so when you're going through this journey, how do you keep yourself consistent? Because a lot of times when you feel so far off from the goal, it can be pretty hard to keep yourself accountable and keep yourself consistent, because day in and day out in fitness, you're not necessarily going to see the exact result that you want like a weekend. It takes a long time. So how do you keep yourself motivated?
Before I hit on that, I like how you use dark energy, because there's good energy and dark energy. And a lot of people don't utilize both, and they always just want to use the good energy. But the thing is, that'll never always be there. And so being able to pull the dark energy and utilize that to be able to continue to push yourself, like that fuck you mentality, like watch this, like I use that for the first couple of years of my journey. And ultimately that's because like you said, it's hard to see the progress. It's hard to see the consistent effort. Like, you go to the gym one day, you're not going to see progress. You go to the gym 2 weeks, you're still not seeing progress. It comes 4, 5, 6 months, a year down the road where you're actually seeing real good progress that, you know, you get that good energy from. So the whole thing when I first started with the consistency thing was, I told myself that I want to be able to look myself in the mirror, and I know it's going to take a really long time. And I would pull from that dark energy. I'd remind myself of all the people that used to hate on me, all the people that doubted me, all the people that called me fat. And I'd use that as fuel every single day. And I was like, you know, even though this sucks, I know how good I feel afterwards. Even though I don't look good, I know that I'm doing something every single day to move it forward in the right direction. And I just compounded that over and over and over again for the first like 4 months of my journey. And that was before it led into 75 hard. And the consistency thing is what most people struggle is, because you're not going to see the results right away. But that's like the number one thing is like, you know, anything worthwhile is going to take a long time, and it's going to be really hard. And I had to constantly remind myself. And luckily I had found a bunch of like podcasts and stuff that motivated me. It was like, yeah, it's going to take a long time. And, you're always looking for those quick fixes and stuff like that. And I tried that many, many times than before. I've tried, the fat loss pills. I've tried every other, fad diet. I've tried, the high intensity fat burning workouts. I tried everything. I was like, yeah, dude, there's no quick fix for this. Like, this body fat's didn't come here overnight. It's not going to go away overnight. So it's going to take a long time, and just a constant battle of just reminding myself, like, you feel better after you work out every single time you do it. So just go for that and just keep doing that day after day after day. And, you compound that over 5 years, and, you look like a stud like me now.
And I like that confidence. I really do. I think more people actually in the world need that kind of self-talk, because if we're not our biggest fan, then who will be? And so I love hearing that kind of talk. You mentioned 75 hard, and for those who don't know what that is, let's talk about that a little bit. And also, what value did it add to you? How'd you come across it?
So it's actually a really, really funny story. This was during my addiction phase and my partying, and I actually went down to visit a friend in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and he's like, "Hey man, we're gonna go out to the bars and stuff, have a good time." I was like, "Oh hell yeah, where are we going?" And he's like, "We're going to a gay bar." And I was like, "Whoa, hold up, bro, I'm not gay." And he's like, "No, bro, trust me, it's incredible. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. There's no competition." And at the time I was fat, and I was like, "Dude, I'm all about it. Hell yeah, let's do it." And so we go there. I end up hitting it off with this one girl, ended up taking her home for the night, then got her social media the next day. And then all of a sudden she kept posting this podcast. And at the time I had no idea what a podcast even was. And I was like, "Hey, what is this?" And she's like, "Oh, it's the MFCEO project by Andy Frisello. Like, it's a entrepreneur based podcast." And at the time I just was getting my cannabis business up and running. She's like, "You would really like this guy." And the first time I listened to it, he spoke to my soul, and I was like, "All right, I fuck with this dude. I'm going to start listening to him." Basically listen to him like every day for the first 6 months. And that was another thing that motivated me to like working out and exercise and stuff like that. And then I decided that on I think it was July 23, 2021, I was going to start 75 hard, because I'd heard him mention it. But for those first 6 months, I was like, man, I'm not ready for that. That's a lot. Like 75 days, no drinking, no eating like shit. You got to work out twice a day. And I was just getting in the routine of working out at 270 pounds. And it was like, 2 workouts a day, that's a lot. I can't do that right now. So I had to build my way up to it. And I decided that on my birthday, I was going to do the program. And the program, if you don't know what it is, it's basically you do 2 workouts a day. One has to be outdoors. They could both be outdoors, but they had to be 2 45-minute workouts, no compromise, 45 minutes or longer. You have to drink a gallon of water. You have to take a progress picture every day, 10 pages of a self-development book. And then you take a progress picture, and no alcohol or cheat meals for 75 days straight. And when I first started the program, I told everyone knew I was doing it because I made an announcement. And like, that's one of the things I did for accountability, because at the time, once I had started working out, I was really not working out with many people or doing anything. And I made the accountability posts on social media, and they're like, "Why would you do that?" And I was like, "Well, I'm trying to better myself. Like, you guys know I'm a fat fuck. Like, I'm trying to get my life in order." And, as you keep going, the first couple of weeks is really hard. And, you're feeling it, because 2 workouts a day is a lot. Drink a gallon of water, being consistent. And then as you continue to go down the path, you start getting tests. And at the time I didn't realize why the tests were coming, but basically it's God trying to test you to see how bad you want it or not. And after I ended up completing it, I completed the first time, no ifs, ands, or buts, because I made a promise to myself. I was like, I don't want to be who I used to be. I was absolutely disgusted with who I am, not only physically, but mentally and emotionally. Like, I was a fucking wreck at the end of the day. So I decided that I was going to do the program. I did the program. It changed everything. The mental toughness it built within me was unbreakable. It changed me forever. I will never look at life the same. I will never compromise on my values, my standards, and who I am as a person, because that's who I am now. And I don't ever want to go back to who I once was, the overweight drug addict that was just chasing his next high in life. Now I'd rather chase the next impact I can make on a person. Now I'd rather chase the next business venture or building a great company. And it just really instilled the mental toughness that, even though you don't want to do something, it's good for you, you should probably do it. And I'm going to do it. And that's just a commitment that I've made to myself. And I applied that to every area of my life, whether it be my businesses, my physical health, my relationships, my spirituality. All areas of life have improved significantly because of the mental toughness that has instilled in me, and the discipline. Now, going on almost 5 years since I did, or 4 years since I did that, my life has done a complete 180. And I can give credit where it's due to Andy Frisella. I've given it to him multiple times in person because I've had the opportunity to meet that man. And he's changed more lives than almost anyone has ever done with this program. It's not some fad. It is a mental toughness challenge. Yes, you get great physical results from it, but what it does to your mind is absolutely incredible. Like, I can't, it's hard to even explain what it does to you until you've actually completed the program. And there's people that do, quote unquote, say they do it, but they haven't actually done it, because you can just tell, because it changes who you are as a person. Once you've done it correctly, you will never go back to your old habits. Even if, like, they're screaming your name to just, be lazy, not do what you're supposed to do, it doesn't really allow you to. Once you shift your mindset and you change your mind on who you are and who you're trying to become, it's over. Then you've committed to it, and it's a thing that can be done year after year. And I continue to do the program every single year, that 75 hard and all the phases for the live hard. And it's something that's less than half the year. And if you can dedicate your time to that, you're going to be in a whole lot better position than 99% of the world. Because most people, they are lazy, they are undisciplined, they aren't focused, they aren't committed to actually making a difference and ultimately becoming the best version of yourself. And Andy Frisella is a genius for creating that program, because it has helped millions and will continue to help millions. Going on 5 years of that program being around, it's absolutely incredible what it's done for me alone, and the thousands of people that I've talked to that have actually completed the program.
Yeah. You mentioned that moment where you couldn't go back. Do you remember, was it what day, what that you had that thing of like, wow, okay, I get it now, when it comes to doing a 75 hard?
So it was actually on my last workout. It was my last workout of 75 hard, and I just finished a run all by myself. And I finished the workout and I looked at the watch, and it actually is kind of almost bringing tears to my eyes now. I saw the 45 minutes and I was like, I did it. And that was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And I was like, look what you've done. You committed to something. You actually followed through with it for once. And after that, it was like, all right, what can I do now? I did something that not many people are able to do. I stayed committed to something and followed it to a T for 75 days. What can you do now, Oliver? And it shifted my mindset. It's like, dude, if I can do this, what can I do? And it just gives you that sense of confidence, and you just have so much momentum. And if you're able to use that momentum to roll into another area of your life you want to improve while still staying consistent with the habits and routines that program instills in you, you are unstoppable. Like, nothing can stand in your way, or no obstacles too big, no mountain too high to climb. And it feels like you are on top of the world. And once you're on top of that world and you look back and you see how much separation, because it does get lonely, especially if you're not a part of some great community like First Form. And I did this before I was even a part of First Form. It made me realize that I am no longer going to be surrounding myself by average people that aren't aligned with what I'm trying to achieve. All of my old friends, they doubted me. They gave me shit. They wanted me to quit. They wanted me to go have drinks. They wanted me to just cheat on my diet. They were trying to pull me back to where they are, because they saw the leaps I was making in my life and the progress. And I realized that once I made it that far, is like, why would I ever go back to that? Why would I go back to just, half-assing anything? Why would I go back to that person that, couldn't resist that beer, couldn't resist that piece of pizza or that cookie? Is like, I never want to go back to that. And that was like the big breakthrough moment, was like, you're going to achieve something great as long as you can consistently do this. And I just refuse to allow myself to go back. And even though it meant cutting out majority of the people out of my life, including family and friends and stuff like that, which was probably the hardest part, that was like the number one factor that wanted to keep pulling me back to spend time with those people, was like, you get fucking lonely. You go through a period of no man's land, because when you're transitioning from the people that you used to spend your time with to discovering yourself in the middle and then trying to find that next tribe of people, it's very lonely. And a lot of people, they start a self-development journey or something like that. They don't necessarily have to do 75 hard, but they go through this period of no man's land and they can't take the loneliness. They don't take the time to find out who they are, what they really desire, what kind of impact they're trying to make during their time here on earth. And then they fall back in their old habits and spending the time with the people that they grew up around. And people don't come in your life for the rest of it. Some of them are just for seasons or for a specific reason, and then very few are going to come into your life for the rest of it. And that more often than not, the people that are supposed to be in your life, you tend to meet them when you're in a position of, power and momentum that you've built up, and you're on the pursuit of, pursuing something great. And so many people end up falling back into their old habits and patterns because they can't go through that no man's land process, which I did. And I'm luckily I found out about First Form and got involved with their community and got surrounded by a bunch of people that were on a similar path to me, not necessarily with the entrepreneurship part that came along with Arte down the road, but the First Form family helped me stay consistent, helped me stay continuing to pursue myself and, becoming, physically fit, helping others, guiding them, being a lighthouse and all those things. And that was really the, breakthrough point where I was like, you know what? I will never go back to who I once was. That is not who I wanted to be. I couldn't look myself in the mirror. I hated who I was internally. And now I love who I am. And that's simply because I did that program, and I stayed true with the path that it, leads you down.
Yeah, you mentioned something very important there. You mentioned loneliness and you mentioned no man's land. And that is something that is really tough for a lot of people, especially, and you think you also mentioned about family and friends and stuff as well. And that's a sneaky part as well, because it's usually the people closest to us that can sometimes be our biggest obstacle to growth in every time. So, and I'm sure you get this a lot now. So what do you give in terms of advice and suggestions for people out there who are now dealing with this critical stage of where it's damn lonely at the beginning? And as you mentioned, over time, more and more people come into your life. But when you're first starting out, it is super lonely out there. So what do you say to those out there suffering from that right now?
So for the audience listening, if you are going through a pivotal point in your life and you are trying to find your next tribe of people that can guide and help pull you along on your journey instead of be an anchor, they're a propeller, you got to find a like-minded group of peers that are on the same path as you. That is why I created my Brotherhood in Kaizen, was to help guide young men under the age of 30 along the self-development and entrepreneurial journey, because I know how hard it was. I know how many times I wanted to quit. I know how many times I wanted to go back, and I was almost to the point of, why is this even worth it? So my number one recommendation is to you is limit the time with the people that do not serve you. It's really, really, really fucking hard with family. That is the hardest obstacle I've had to overcome, was realizing that I cannot spend a substantial amount of time with my family. Now it's getting better because they know it doesn't matter what they say to me. It's irrelevant when it comes to what I'm doing with my life, because they're always going to project their own doubts, insecurities onto you, because that's their own problems that they wish they would have done something different to make their life different. And you can't listen to those people. My number one piece of advice is you only listen to those people you listen to the people that you would trade places with. If they have something in your life that you want, then you listen to their advice. But if they don't have the life that you want, do not listen to their advice. I did that for so many years, and I was wondering why my life looked the way it did, because I was listening to all the wrong people. I was asking all the right questions, but I was asking all the wrong people. So if you are able to find a like-minded group of people that are on the self-development path or on the pursuit of trying to better themselves, you need to submerge yourself into a group like that that's there to help you along your journey, because those people, when times get tough and you want to quit, they're there to pick you up. They're there to help you. And ultimately, like, I'm grateful that I did the 75 hard and I was committed to it, because a lot of people, they'll start off on their fitness journey or self-development and then it gets lonely and then they fall back. And you need to have a group of people that you can lean on to help you. And it can't be the people like your family and stuff that truly don't know what you want to achieve in life, or they don't know how to help you get there. You can't listen to those people, because, if I were to have gone to my mom when I was like, you know what, this is hard, this entrepreneurship stuff is very hard, which I did at the beginning. I was like, this is so hard. And she's like, you know what, you're doing great. You're successful, all this stuff. And I, like, at the time it almost got to me. And now it's like, I don't listen to any of that shit. It's like, I only listen to those people that either have what I want in life or, are on the similar path, that have some sort of insights that can help me through this tough time. And those are the types of people you need to surround yourself with. And it is very, very tough. So if you are a young man under the age of 30 and you are looking for a like-minded group of driven savages that are trying to actually make an amazing impact in this world and maximize your potential here on earth, make sure to get my contact info and talk to me about it, because we'd love to have you in our brotherhood, because we ultimately want to help those people. That is why we created Kaizen, was because I personally know how many times I wanted to quit. And I know how many people actually do end up quitting because they can't sit in the loneliness long enough to find that next tribe of people. And that is why we created Kaizen, is because I don't want people starting the journey and then quitting because they can't find the next group of peers to be that propeller for them, instead of them falling back and spending a bunch of time with anchors. And then they end up being, unsatisfied with who they are in their life, and they don't achieve what they truly want during their time here on earth.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will include that in the show notes and everything to that. And I've met a couple other members of Kaizen. And so I completely vouch that they are some killers, some other adjectives as well. And so these are all good things. So you're doing great work over there. So I definitely vouch for that. With entrepreneurship, you mentioned that. And so what got you started in your entrepreneurship journey?
So it's actually really funny. So basically, I went to Hope College, which is a private liberal arts school in Holland, Michigan. And I went there because, I was listening to all the wrong people telling me what I want to do with my life. And I didn't spend any time in high school really thinking about what the fuck I want to do. I was decent at sports, even though I was overweight. So I ended up getting a scholarship to go play lacrosse. And I went to Hope College, which is very, very expensive, even though I got a little bit of scholarship money. It was still very expensive at like $35,000 a year to go there. And it was my hometown. And I listened to all the wrong people telling me I need to go to college. I need to do this. Like, you want to be successful? Guess what? Go to college, get a degree, fall in line, follow suit, do what do what everyone else does, and sit in student debt and loans and stuff like that for the rest of your life. And I had no idea. So I did it. And at the end of my freshman year, I went into school with one of my good friends that I smoked a bunch of pot with, partied my ass off with. We were roommates. And that's basically what we did all our freshman year, was party our ass off. And then there was a moment one night where he wanted to go to bed. We had the same class schedule in the morning. And me and my buddy from across the hall were watching movies, hanging out. And he's like, I want to go to bed. We ended up, getting into an argument. He got all pissy. And then he actually ended up pulling a knife on my buddy who lived across the hall and threatening him and saying, like, leave our room. I'm trying to go to bed. And then I grabbed him. We got in an altercation. He hit me. I hit him. Ended up having to go to court. Basically, he left the room, ended up going to the cops. I woke up at 3 a.m. to the cops saying I was under arrest for assault and battery. And I almost got resisting arrest because I was like, yeah, fuck no. He hit me first. There was a witness. I'm not going to jail. Like, there's no way. And ended up having to go to court. I beat the court case. And when you come from a middle-class family and you fuck up, your parents like, yeah, you got yourself into this. Guess what? You're going to pay the bill. And so for me to come up with money at the time, I was like, you know what? I'm a full-time college student. How can I come up with a few $1,000s to pay in a month? Okay. I'm a partier. I smoke a lot of weed. What do college kids want? They want weed. So I started selling weed, hit up my dude who was one of my family friends at the time that I was getting cannabis through, and I ended up selling a bunch of weed, paid off my lawyer fees. And I was like, damn, this is some good money. So after that, kept selling weed, making a bunch of money. And then I was like, damn, how do I make even more money? Well, instead of buying weed, how about I learn how to grow it? So that's where the whole entrepreneurship route started. I ended up starting to grow cannabis in a little tent in a basement, in which I eventually evolved and scaled into me having a couple grow facilities, a greenhouse, stuff like that, getting my medical marijuana card, becoming a caregiver, supplying cannabis to my patients who had terminal illnesses and cancer and stuff like that. And one thing that really instilled into me that cannabis is a holistic medicine was my mom's best friend was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and she ended up beating pancreatic cancer without doing any pharmaceutical pills or anything like that through chemo. The only thing that she did was she smoked cannabis, and she was one of the first people ever to beat pancreatic cancer by only using cannabis. And no one ever lives through pancreatic cancer. That is a slim to none chance. And with her being able to beat pancreatic cancer, it instilled belief into me that, maybe the government and the pharmaceutical industries don't know what's best for us. Maybe there's an alternative option that isn't going to kill us that they can profit off. And which ultimately pursued me to just go ham with trying to scale and do as much as I possibly can with cannabis. And that's what ultimately led me to getting into the medical market, then led me into, as of recently, getting into the recreational market here in Michigan with a cannabis processing facility and a upcoming grow facility that I just shut down the last medical grow facility just because of the zoning issues with Holland, Michigan. It's a very conservative area. They opted out of allowing for adult use cannabis grow facilities, so I had to change. So I've been going through quite a big transition period with just getting our processing facility opened up and dealing with the city of Muskegon. It's been quite the journey, but it's been the most rewarding thing I've ever done, and it's also been the hardest thing I've ever done, no doubt about it.
Yeah, yeah, and and I think that takes a lot of faith and dealing with the unknown, and I think those are some critical themes in your whole journey so far, is just having faith and relying on that and dealing with the unknown. So, did you always have a bunch of faith, or is that something that you just acquired?
So I was born and raised Catholic. I had a little bit of faith growing up, but it wasn't because of my own decisions. It was because of I was forced to. And as of the last year, I really started to dive deeper into my faith because I always believed in a higher power. There's no doubt about it. I've always been a believer in God. But over the few years that I was going through like addictions and stuff like that, I kind of really moved myself away from God. And God ultimately has shown me that it all comes from Him. And there was times during my addiction phase and stuff like that where he was constantly reminding me like, dude, you're fucking up. You're doing the wrong things. You're leading yourself down the wrong path. Here's the right path. Why don't you follow it? And I would just neglect it, push it away, and I'd keep going down my path because I thought I was, more mighty than God himself. And I knew what was best for me, which honestly I did not. And a moment when it really the really big pivotal point in my life when I ended up quitting the addiction and stuff like that. This is before I ended up meeting that girl who showed me Andy's podcast, was the fact that I was all coked out one night. I was laying in my bed and I had this vision and epiphany that I was at my own funeral and I could see it clearly. I was at my own funeral. I could see all my family, my friends, and my mother. And my mother stuck on particular, and she was bawling her eyes out saying he was too young. And at that moment, I really realized I was at my own funeral. And that was just God showing me dude, if you don't change, this is where your life is going. And that, even though I didn't want to necessarily accept it, I knew that that was where my fate was going, which ultimately that's when the journey really started. Is I started to slow down on the drugs and stuff like that. And I was still drinking and partying, which is why I ended up going to the bars with my friend in Indiana a few weeks later. That actually happened a couple weeks before that whole situation with me finding Andy for selling all that stuff. And that was just the big pivotal moment where I was like, dude, you're fucking around. If you don't want to die, you need to start changing your habits and what you're doing with your life on a daily basis. You need to stop doing the drugs and stuff like that. And it's actually pretty wild. About a month later after that, the people I used to spend the most time with and partying and stuff like that, they ended up getting a bad batch of cocaine, and a buddy of mine died from fentanyl. And I would have been there at that and doing it with them. And that could have been me. And I think that was God showing me that that is what would have happened if I hadn't have changed my habits and stopped doing those things. And it was just a big come to realization that, God is looking out for you. And ultimately, that's helped me dive deeper and deeper into my faith. And even though that was 4 years ago now, I didn't really dive crazily deep into my faith until about a year ago, where it was just you know what, I have faith in God, but how can I build this relationship better? Because I'm going through another pivotal point in my life with the new businesses and doing different business ventures and stuff like that. And I just got to have faith because it's all unknown. You never know. I could die tomorrow, but having that faith inside of me, knowing that, the future is bright and what I can do during my time here on earth is ultimately what's going to allow me to keep going. Because as the life of an entrepreneur, if there's anyone listening that knows, is it's hard. Nothing is guaranteed. You could lose it all tomorrow. You could die tomorrow. You could, go through something in your business where you end up having to shut your doors. And just having that faith, knowing that God's always got your back and he's always going to, make things happen for a reason, whether in that moment or not. That's ultimately what's going to dictate how you pursue things. And just having that faith has really just brought fulfillment into my life, knowing that I'm doing this for a reason and that, God's got my back as long as I got his, and give credit where it's due. And I wouldn't be the man I am today. I'd actually be dead if it wasn't for that man upstairs looking down upon me.
Yeah, That's some powerful words and powerful story right there. Um, let's talk about relationships. And so that's something that I think with entrepreneurs and especially with us who had to radically change our circles. So, um, I- how's your approach been with building relationships now and maintaining them? And I'm sure you have a lot of different rules around that now.
So I am very quick to put up my guard when it comes to relationships because of how many times I've been screwed over in my past. I am a very vulnerable person. I'm not afraid to share anything, but to let you into my inner circle because I know how much power and influence you'll have over me, I have to really be cautious about that. Typically, it takes about 6 months before I let someone into my circle. I got to really know them. I got to know what they're like. I got to be able to see what they're about on a daily basis, seeing what kind of standards they hold themselves to. Because if I let someone into my circle that doesn't hold themselves to an extremely high standard like myself, that's going to make me think twice about holding myself to a higher standard. That's going to lower my standards. So when that comes into play is like, okay, is this person aligned with my values? Do they constantly show up? Or are they the type that plays a victim? Do they do all of these things? And when you first start, it's like when you have to elevate your standards. For the audience listening, when you elevate your standards, you really have to be really critical about this, because God or whatever higher power you may believe in is going to test you by bringing people in with lower standards, and that's going to really be the test to see how bad you want to continue with those standards. But as you continue along the journey, he won't test you as much. He'll actually be bringing more people in that hold those standards, hold the line that you want to have for yourself and that are aligned with you. And those people will be attracted to you, because now I repel people with low standards. They don't like to talk to me because I make them very, very, very uncomfortable. I mean, even my friends, I make them uncomfortable, because that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to push your friends. You're supposed to help them grow, because that's what we're ultimately put here on this earth to do, is expand, like maximize the expansion of our being is what we have to do on a daily basis. And when people are constantly pushing you to grow and strive, those people actually give a fuck about you. And the people that say, it's okay, take it easy, take a break, you're killing it, you don't got to do all that, like you're just doing too much. And those are the people that, those people are like diseases. And you need to really be critical of those people in your life, and the relationships that you build when you're first starting. Those are going to be some of the most important. So those are the ones you have to be really, really, thoughtful about whether or not these people serve you. Do they bring value to your life, or do they suck energy out of you? Because a lot of people, they tend to be energy suckers. And I know that the audience right now, when you hear the word energy sucker, think about someone that you look at the phone when they text or call you, and you're like, damn, I don't really want to answer that. Those are energy suckers. Those are the people that you need to create separation with. And it's hard at first, but once they like catch the drift that you're not always available, you're not going to listen to their bullshit, you're not going to listen to all their problems, they're going to start backing away. And you're not going to have to be mean about it. You don't have to just cut them out completely, just distance yourself. And that's the thing that most people struggle with, is they're like a yes man, what you would say per se, is like they're always just there whenever you need it. And, you're always answering, you're always listening to people's problems, but you only have so much energy throughout the day. And the less time you spend giving to those types of relationships that are just energy suckers, that could be your family, your friends. For me, it was my family, big energy suckers. I had to lay it out with my sister, for example. She used to be the type that would just call me to just vent and dump all her shit on me. And I had to be very stern about it. Like, I was like, I don't want to answer the phone when you call, because all you do is bitch and complain about certain things that are going on in your life. I don't want to hear that. Fucking go hire a therapist for that shit. I'm your brother. If you want some help, let me know, but don't just come dumping problems on me. And that's one of the hardest things most people do, is because most of their family are energy suckers, which sucks. And that could be even your best friends too, growing up your whole life. Like, those could be energy drainers. Yeah, they may be a good time to hang out with here and there, but do they actually uplift you? Do you feel energetic? Are you excited to answer that call, or are you hesitant because you're like, I know that's just going to be a case of problems right there. So for the guys listening, like, if you are trying to be critical of the relationships that you build, is you got to make a list of your standards first. What are your standards? What are you going to be okay with in your life, and what are you not okay with? And looking at someone that's trying to build a relationship with them, or you're trying to build a relationship with that person, do they align and check the boxes with your values and your standards? If they do, then you want to build that relationship with that person, because you never know what could come about it. But if they don't align with your values, they don't hold the same standards, you want to be very cautious of that, because they will have a big influence on how you operate day to day when you spend time with them. So be very critical on the relationships you build with those people. And like I said, the further along you get on that path of holding your standards, the more likely that you will continue to attract people that hold themselves to an extremely high standard like yourself.
Absolutely. And let's talk about your podcast a little bit. So it's Fresh Hope for a Better You. And what's the inspiration behind that, and the meaning? I know a little bit of it, but for listeners.
So basically, the Fresh Hope for a Better You is a self-development podcast that I basically talk about entrepreneurship, self-development, things that I've learned along my journey, my stories and experiences. And it ultimately started off as basically a venting session, because like going through no man's land, I really didn't have the people to talk to about it, what I was going through, because I knew how powerful these people that I'd give my time to would be. And I needed to get a lot of shit off my chest that, I was holding inside for the longest time. So it started off as a venting and me talking about my experiences, things that I've learned, just to get it off my chest, which ultimately helped me get past my addictions and stuff like that. But as it continued to go and more people started tuning and listening, they really started to love it. And I started just talking about the things that helped me get to where I'm at today. And one of my favorite sayings is from Ed Milet is, you can help person you can help to the best of your ability is the person you once were. So I'm speaking to my past self on things that I used to struggle with that I can help people through, because I'm not unique. I am not, the one out of 10 million people like that's been through shit. Like, people go through shit all the time. So if I can share what helped me get through these problems and obstacles in my life to help someone else, that is what I'm here to do. I can help those people. Why not help those people? And the podcast is just a platform that's really helped me out with that and just getting stuff off my chest. Like, a lot of times it's just like shit that I've dealt with and how I was able to overcome it. And, people will listen to it and be like, man, if he can overcome that, why can't I overcome the current situation that I'm in? And I get messages on a weekly basis talking about that. Like, man, I needed to hear that message and stuff like that. It gives me, fulfillment, because that's why I do it. It's not like I'm making a killing doing it. It actually costs me a lot of money to produce my podcast and a lot of my time. And it's just a passion project of mine, because it's just a story, and it's helped me improve my speaking skills. It's helped me get a lot of shit off my chest, because I've been through a lot of shit. There's a lot of shit in my life. And when I tell people my story, they're like, man, you've been through a lot. And you're how old? 26? Like, when I talk to people and have a conversation, whether it be on the phone or in person, they're like, man, what are you, like 34? And I'm like, no, I'm 26. I've been through a lot in my life already, and I'm just getting started, baby. And it's been awesome so far. We're over 100 some episodes in. I've had amazing guests, and it started off with just me doing one episode a week of me just talking and explaining certain things that I'm in. Now I've had the opportunity to start interviewing guests, and it's been a phenomenal time, because, it's nice to learn from people. And with my network of people, I have an amazing network of people that from all different industries and all walks of life that have overcome extreme adversities in their life, and they're doing real shit in real life and trying to make the world a better place. And that's what the podcast is all about, because at the end of the day, like, there is always a fresh hope for better you. Like, there is always hope. You can't take that away. Doesn't matter where you're currently at in your life, there is always hope for a brighter future for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And one of the last questions here is, what does success mean to you?
That's a tough one. Success means to me being able to wake up happy, being able to make an impact in life, being able to be free. By free, I mean financially, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually free. I don't have to say anything to anyone to explain myself, why I do what I do. I can pay my bills. I do very well. I can give back to the community. I can give back to a lot of people. And success is measured up to what you believe success is. And if you start comparing your successes to other people's successes, especially people that, in comparison that are in the entrepreneurship world, if I'm comparing myself to people in the 20-year room, that's going to make me feel like shit. If I compare people that are in the room of the 5-year club, guess what? I'm doing pretty fucking good. So I'd say I'm pretty successful in that area. But a lot of people, they struggle with, what is success? And they look up to all these conglomerates that are on a pedestal. But guess what? They're just human beings. that's the one thing that I've learned over the course of my journey and having the opportunity to meet a lot of my mentors is they're just like us. They're humans. They've just been in the game long enough. They've taken the right actions that led them to where they're at, where you look up to them. They have experiences. They've went through all the bullshit that you're kind of avoiding to go through. And once you go through that, that's success. And, the daily, like, you can measure your success on a daily basis. What I do is I use what we call the power list. It's developed by Andy Frisell. It's 5 critical tasks that you do every single day. That way you're stacking wins throughout the day. And if you do those 5 critical tasks that move your life forward in some areas, whether that be business, relationship, your personal life, anything like that, your physical, if you compound that, the 5 critical tasks every single day for, you stack it for a month, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, like you're going to be way more successful than most people, because most people don't end up even doing what they know they need to do on a daily basis. So you can stack the small little successes every single day, the little wins, like that is successful. And if you compound enough successful days and like wins throughout the year, you're going to be very, very successful. And that's what it comes down to. So your success, that for the audience listening, is going to be different from my success. You can't compare yourself to where I am. You need to compare yourself to who you used to be, because if you are further ahead in whatever area you're trying to improve than who you used to be, you are successful in that area, and you need to keep going, because success is a never ending journey. And that's where most people think. They're like, once I reach that mountain, I'll be happy, I'll be content, or I'll be fulfilled with myself. But the thing is, once you get to that mountain, you're like, okay, what's next? Because it's a never ending journey of pursuit of success, because whether that be financially, relationship, spiritually, any of those areas, it's a never ending journey, because that's what it comes down to, is like, how many times can I continue to repeat these successes? How big of successes can I achieve in my life? And my vision and my dreams are huge. That's because I want to see what I can do during my time here on earth. And I hope that the audience listening today, I hope that you guys realize that it's a race versus yourself. You don't want to be comparing yourself to all the other people that, are way ahead of you. You want to compare yourself to who you used to be and keep working. Yes, you can use the comparison for certain things if people are in your industry or in some areas that you want to be like. But if you use that all the time and you just play that comparison game, you're going to be unfulfilled and unhappy all the time. And that's not what you want during your time here on earth. So compare yourself to who you used to be, and then continue to stack those wins and successes throughout your journey. And you will be happy and content. You will achieve more than 99% of the world. It's not that hard, guys. It just takes the consistent action on a daily basis.
Absolutely. And the last question here is, someone comes up to you at a cafe and they ask you, what are 1 to 3 things that I can do starting today to create a better me? What would you tell them?
Number 1, you focus on your physical health, because everything's directly correlated off your physical health. Your physical health is a foundation, just for example. So the foundation of a house, you can't build off a fucked up foundation and expect the house to look great at the top. So if you take care of your physical health, that is the number 1 thing you should start with, is taking care of your physical health, eating quality whole foods, make sure you're getting enough protein, make sure you get some kind of movement in every single day. Doesn't have to be weightlifting. That's what I like my clients to do, but it could be simply going for a walk. The second thing would be reading self-development or nonfiction books that are going to help you move forward. It's going to challenge your perspective. You're going to be learning. You're going to be growing. You're going to be doing all of these things, because you never know what's possible until you read that someone else has done it. Once you read someone else has already achieved that, you're like, man, why can't I do that? Maybe you start taking actions to actually achieve that. That's the one thing. And it's something like, when I first started reading every day, I struggled. It took me 30 minutes to read 10 pages. Now I can bust out 10 pages in about 10 minutes. It's not that hard. And I've read over 100 some books in the last 3 years. It's not anything that no one can't do. Anyone can start with simply 10 pages a day. And the third one is start being grateful for what you have. If you are constantly under the impression that, you are a victim, you just, you have it you're unlucky, you just don't have what it takes and all these things, and you wish you had all these things, like, be grateful for what you have, and then you can start working towards what you want. And that's the thing with the faith thing, is like, I remember many times in my life, I wasn't grateful for what I had, and God took those things from me. He started to take them away. And once you really start to practice the gratitude on a daily basis, so many amazing things start to come into your life. I talk about how grateful I am for the things that I have in my life every single day, because I am truly grateful. because I'm blessed. There's a lot of people that would kill to be in my position. And sometimes with me being a go-getter, I'm always like, man, I wish I just had this. But then I start feeling unfulfilled and unhappy with myself. And then I just quickly flip the switch and I'm like, no, I'm grateful for what I have. That's all coming my way, but I got to be grateful for what I have right now, these opportunities, and I got to take advantage of them. So those are my three things that I'd recommend: taking care of your physical health, taking care of the information you're consuming on a daily basis with reading every single day. And the third one is being grateful for what you guys got. You got to be grateful for what you have in your life right now. Otherwise, you won't ever have anything more than what you got.
That is a perfect way to sum up and culminate this whole episode. This was an awesome conversation. Where can listeners keep up with you at?
So if you want to connect with me on any social media, it's Oliver_Goulet23. If you want to email me, it's olivergoulet@thefreshhope.com. Or if you want to check out my podcast, The Fresh Hope for Better You, it's on Spotify and Apple. If you guys ever have any questions or concerns, you guys can reach out to me. I'd love to help you out, especially if you guys are interested in Kaizen. I run all my own social medias. I will be the one responding to you. I do try to check those every single day so I can get back to the people that are trying to get in contact with me. But yeah, it's just Oliver_Goulet 23 on all social media, guys.
Well, thank you so much for that. And I will have all that in the show notes. And so for listeners out there, stay awesome, be limitless, and as always, go be the CEO of your health in your life. Peace.